referente a un asunto el cual no está en la agenda, tiene que llenar la forma petición de dirigirse a la mesa directiva y someterla al secretario antes de que la reunión sea llamada a pedido. Peticiones de dirigirse a la mesa directiva, escritas u orales, no serán permitidas después de que la reunión haya comenzado.
Call to order at 5:32 p.m.
Jesse Atondra, Board President. Ernesto Garre, Board Vice President.
Present.
Gilbert Lopez, Board Clerk. Evie Velasquez, Board Member.
Here.
Elizabeth Nati Santano Garibaldo, Board Member.
Present.
Miguel Guerrero, Superintendent, present. Fred Molina, Director 2 of Administrative Services. Tina Esparza Diaz, Director 2 of Instructional Services.
Present.
Antonia Aguilera, Administrative Services Recorder.
Present.
Daniela Medina Gomez, District Communication Translator and Interpreter Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Adoption of the agenda. We're moving on to item 2.0, adoption of the agenda. Item 2.1, adopt the agenda as presented.
Administration recommends that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Board members, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns?
No. I motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion made by member Santana Garibaldo. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a second by member Velasquez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item point 3, do we have
Yes.
closed session? Okay, moving on to closed session at 5:34 p.m. 5:34 p.m. Sorry.
Carrie, look at it, find out if he knows.
Okay, we're in closed session. We're live.
Any person wishing to address the Board of Trustees regarding a matter that is not on the agenda must complete a request to address the trustees form and submit it to the recorder before the Pledge of Allegiance. Any request to address the board, written or verbal, will not be granted after the Pledge of Allegiance has begun.
Cualquier persona que quiera dirigirse a la mesa directiva referente a un asunto el cual no está en la agenda tiene que llenar la forma petición de dirigirse a la mesa directiva y someterla al secretario antes del saludo a la lealtad. Peticiones de dirigirse a la mesa directiva escritas u orales no serán permitidas después que la promesa de lealtad haya comenzado.
Okay, we're back to open session. Do we have anything to report? Nothing at all? No?
Nope.
We have nothing to report. Okay, moving on to item 5.0, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6.0, public comments. Do we have any?
We don't have any public comment.
None? Okay, no comments, thank you. Moving on to item 7.0, business administration. 7.1, public hearing regarding local control and accountability plan for 2021-2024.
Good evening, everybody. So for the first part of this presentation, I'm just going to give you a little budget overview for this. Does that work? Does that work for that?
The batteries are good.
That's fine.
Batteries.
I don't want to stand in your way there.
No, you're fine.
Is that, do you know if this?
You want to hand this out?
This is a printout of the presentation, it looks like. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you. All right, sorry. That's, if it doesn't work, intern, it's fine. It just, all right. Okay, no, it's all good. I just didn't want to block anybody's view on the edge here. If you could just go to the next slide whenever you're ready. Okay, so thank you, because that works very well. So we're looking at this. This is our overall revenue picture. When I go over the public hearing for the budget, this is what you're going to see on the Formal 1. Just breaks out LCFF funds, our concentration and supplemental grant funds, which we use for the LCAP. All other state funds, local funds, and federal funds, that's our total. Next slide, please. This right here is our total budgeted expenditures, matching close to that revenue number. Of those, just under 8.9 million goes to the LCAP, and the remaining is not including our LCAP. Those are our other general and federal expenses. Go to the next slide, please. This right here is the budget to actuals of our one-year LCP plan. This was what we did for the 2021 school year. We see that we had an original budget of 4.08. We spent just over 4 for a difference of 785. And the next slide. I think that's it. Oh, no. And then these are just graphical breakdowns of what you saw on the previous slide. So the big circle that you see is our total $50+ million budget. And then of that, 62%, just over 33 million is LCFF funds. And then that is broken out further into that smaller circle. You can see that just under 8.9 million figure for the LCAP funds. That's our supplemental and concentration grant figures. And then you have our LCFF funds, which are other general fund monies that we receive. Next slide, please. And this is just another way to graphically look at that. That's included in the update for parents. Our total budget expenditures on a bar graph compared to how much of that is actually the LCAP. Next slide, please. And then this right here is just a graphical representation of the budget to actuals of our LCP, so you can see how much we had in budget and how much we actually spent. And then that is all that we have for the numbers. And now Cherie has the following public hearing for the LCAP and the actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
So,
Did you give a time for opening the public hearing?
We did not.
No idea.
6:33
But it
p.m.
was 6:34?
6:33.
6:36?
Do we need to take that action and then I represent that, or does that?
that's fine.
No? Okay.
There's no one.
Sorry.
It's okay. transition now into the annual update, and, you received that, and then there's hard copies. Did you guys get one? It's the one that looks like, oh, wrong one. I have it. It's the one that has the budget in the front. So basically, what, we had, so we know in the school year 2019, 2020 was the last school year we had an actual LCAP. And then for 2021, we had the learning continuity plan, which kind of replaced the LCAP. So what really made it bizarre for this 21-24 LCAP, we had to write an update for the 1920. So, but embedded in that update was also the learning continuity and attendance plan. So it was two updates for the 1920 LCAP and then the learning continuity plan. So when you go through this, you're going to see a lot of language about COVID. You're going to see language about data not available due to COVID. As you are well aware, we were unable to take the CASP assessment, so we did not take the ELA, math, or science CASP assessment. That was used as our baseline on some of the matrices. So because it was used as a baseline, we're supposed to show our 3-year trend, which we were unable to do because of the assessment being, because we went on the shutdown on March 17th. So you're not going to see any data for 1920. You'll see that some of the actions we were able to implement. Camp Keep's a great example. Typically, Camp Keep, you would think, happens towards the end of the year, where our 6th graders were able to attend because they went in December. So they went down before the shutdown. So each action is going to have verbiage on whether we were able to implement or not implement due to COVID. And for the most part, there were a lot of actions that we were able to implement, especially when it came to instructional aides, band teachers, PE teachers. All of those actions were implemented. Educational field trips, maybe a few grade levels were able to attend their field trip, because I know 3rd grade goes to the Nutcracker and to the activities early on, but all the end of the year field trips were all canceled. So we had to explain, well, what did we do with that money? And so at the immediate thing we started doing was we started working on our infrastructure for tech, buying more equipment, buying everything we needed to get our teachers and students ready for distance learning. So that's going to be in this document. So as you know, today's just a public hearing. Go ahead and review it. Like I said, you're going to see a lot of language due to COVID unable to implement. And that language was actually given us by the county office, which they received from Sacramento, on what to put in the document because of COVID. So now, is there any questions on the annual update and the learning continuity plan? And do you want to add anything, Dina, to this? No? Okay. Dina did a lot of work on this as well. So there's a lot, you'll see there's a lot of narratives. They wanted us, everything we said in the continuity plan, how did it work out? We know there's going to be a learning loss. We know that. So our goal for 21 through 24 is, what are we going to do about that learning loss? How are we going to transition? What are we going to do for our students? So hopefully what we have come up with for our current LCAT is going to help us mitigate some of that learning loss, bring kids up to par. And so I'm going to go over all of that with you right now. So what I did is, I just kind of, you have the actual draft of the LCAP. So you're going to look at it as we're starting all over, right? It's a new document. It's a new trend of 3 years. Our focus now is transitioning to 21-22 school year. This is going to be a 21 through 2024 document. So for goal 1, as you remember, we had 5 goals. We now have narrowed it down to 4 goals. If you could look around the office or the district
boardroom here, you see all of this? This was all done by our site administrators, cabinet, and we went over all the goals. They had to write their own ideas, interventions. What are we going to do for our students that were out of school for, you know, almost 180 days? What are we going to do about that? And so we did a lot of collaboration. We had special ed. I think we had ELD, ELA, and math. And so we kind of just did a round robin. We tried to see what exactly was going to work best, what we had funding for. We looked at data. And we had actually started this process last March. And then COVID hit and we just stopped. And luckily Dina had saved all of this, so we just kind of picked up where we were going to leave off. But now we had to think about COVID and what happened. And so here we have the goals. I'm going to go over them with you. And then I'll talk about the actions. And then ask me questions at the end of each goal if you have any. Okay? And then that's how we'll just go about this. And so for goal 1, it's going to sound like our previous goal. Improve or increase services to support student attendance rates. Improve school climate, the social, emotional, and physical well-being of students by implementing a multi-tiered system of support at all school sites. So we're going to employ PBIS or intervention coordinators, social workers, certificated psychologists, behavioral management specialists, and behavioral intervention aides. Action 2, provide professional development for classified and certificated staff on multi-tiered systems of support. Action 3, employ vice principal to provide additional one-on-one services to students needing additional support to succeed, including low socioeconomic students, foster youth, English language learners, and students with disabilities. Action 4, employ nursing staff to provide health services for students, funding for district nurse, TK through 8, and for all school sites, and LVN for Lamont School. So that is, oh, I have a few more. Wait a minute. Where's my English?
On the bottom.
So, okay, 5 is attendance truancy advocates for overseeing attendance improvement and reduction of chronic absenteeism. And our ongoing funding for athletics at all 4 school sites. Employ a campus supervisor and or school resource officer for Mountain View Middle School with the emphasis on our low socioeconomic students, foster youth, English language learners, and students with disabilities. And employ academic liaisons for the after-school educational safety program. Any questions on goal 1?
What is new
What is new?
on that one?
So the only thing that is new is
Number 7?
well, the vice principal, we're gonna do a 0.5 at Myrtle, 0.5 at Alley, 1 at Mountain View, 1 at Lamont, and 1 at Alicante. 0.7 was there last year. It was a board approved last year. It's been there. I think right before COVID, Brandy was coming in to do a presentation.
I thought we had not concluded that. Have we concluded that?
No, we haven't.
No?
Well, I still need to bring it back to get refinement on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we left it there as a placeholder in case we do decide to do it.
and I think
then we
we're
can
pulling more
proceed.
for campus supervisor versus resource officer, so I think I'll take the resource officer out because
Yes.
they're so short-handed here, there's no way we would be able to afford what they would want to charge us. It's really expensive now. Because I know that the office, I know through Lions Club, we have our flags, and they can't even help us with the flags anymore because they don't have to sell kits anymore because of budget. Anything else?
So
No.
it's just that part?
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
Number 2, the ELA will operate with strong parent and community involvement, including efficient and effective communication and opportunities for parents to participate in their own educational development. Kinder orientation, the 2 parent engagement liaisons, funding for 4 sites to recognize parents for attending parent meeting and meeting or school-related functions, PD, For parents, workshops, conferences that are parent-focused. Provide funds for non-academic activity for parents to connect and engage with school, community relations, and build school culture. Employ a district communications / translator, and sene consejos.
There's nothing new
And
there.
number 8, maintain the functioning updated website as a resource for parents. And funds for the beginning of the school year orientation at Mountain View Middle School. There's no changes to that. And as we know, parent involvement is one of the 8 priorities, so we pretty much, not my hand to say, we like to keep that one the same. Because we base our actions and services based on 8 priorities, and then from the priorities we have the matrices, which is in the big document. So number 3, the Lamont Elementary School District will be a district of academic excellence that provides equity and access for all students and all subgroups with an emphasis on our English language learners, utilizing academic rigor through best first instruction and systematic intervention to ensure that all students are college and career ready. Funding for educational field trips, funding for 6th grade Camp Keep, operate a summer academy program, instructional aids for general education classrooms, supplemental professional development, which will be all areas, ELA, math, tech. We embedded that all under one action. Purchase supplemental Common Core chapter books for school sites, employ a math intervention enrichment teacher at Mountain View Middle School, employ before and after school teacher at Mountain View Middle School, which used to be 0 period, we just reworded it to before and after school, in case they wanted to do after school tutoring. Because of the learning loss mitigation, we may have some of that. Employ the 4 PE teachers, and of course the classroom size reduction that we have, and we employ the 4th through 6th grade teachers. Teachers on special assignment to provide coaching support for classroom teachers. Funding for academic buyback day. Library support staff. Provide enrichment intervention support for all students. So this will include TDIA, tutoring at all school sites. And it may, depending on how we split the funding, some sites may have a reading math lab throughout the day, and if they bring in people to do that. Our band teachers, and funding will be principally directed for additional support to our English language learner students. And these are the 2 girls that help the ELD TOSA, and employ a dual immersion teacher for Mountain View Middle School. And the changes on that would be just, I believe, 3 additional TOSAs, but for 21-22, we have them in the LCAP because remember this is a 21 through 24 document. So we're gonna be using some of our ESSER funds to fund them the first year, and then we'll fund them out of LCAP the following years, if that makes sense. So we're gonna have an ELA / a math TOSA, like we used to before. Remember, we used to have a district math academic coach, TOSA, and we had an English language, ELD, kind of like Israel, the ELD, math, and ELA. So we will be bringing that in because that is part of the ELO plan. And we have to spend that money in that way for learning loss. And then we would have 1 professional development TOSA. There was a slash to that, but I can't remember now. What was the other? Professional development and to start.
Or something?
Oh, yes,
Induction.
professional development and the induction TOSA, yes. Because we had an induction TOSA, and then we haven't had one, and there's not enough hours in the day for Mrs. Sparsa to get done what she's doing right now. She kind of took that on. There's just no way we can continue. That's like a full-time person. And that's for our PIPs and our STIPs, and they have to go through that.
And these folks will also assist in the development of the academies, which will also be a primary focus of them.
So with adding these, how many are we gonna have?
It's there, the total number's there, I believe,
At the district office,
Like completely in the district?
6.
How many do we have now?
1, 2,
3.
3.
So we're doubling on them?
We used to have, remember, we used to have 2 tech TOSAs, and so this is kind of revamping them to meet the needs, specific content area needs of the district, and also to assist Dina, because we just need some help. We learned from this pandemic that it was difficult to hold a fort at times. We need some help.
Thank you.
And the funding's there, there's plenty of funding, and it's gonna be justifiable because the ELO and the ESSER funds that are still gonna come, this is the type of stuff you're being required to spend it on. All right, any other questions? No? All right, let's move on to number 4. The Lamar Elementary School District will be a place where all students and all subgroups are actively engaged in safe and positive school climate that provides the basic service and materials needed to participate successfully in a 21st century educational experience. We have to lease the modular buildings to reduce class sizes, implementation of AVID, provide a digital network devices and technology resource that support classroom instruction and optimize staff productivity. And we know from COVID and distance learning and remote learning and hyper ed that we need a good tech system. Basically the infrastructure. Number 4 is provide a director of technology and 5 IT support staff to adhere to 21st century learning. Number 5, funds will be directed to support the needs of our UPP students by creating 21st century classrooms. Action 6, allocate funds to pay for entry fees, supplies, and travel expenses for students that participate in History Day, oral language over and beyond county competitions, state competitions. Employ a STEM teacher from Mountain View Middle School and employ a distance learning teacher to provide instructional support to students whose parents, guardians prefer this option over traditional in-person instruction due to COVID-19. And that's it. Are there any questions on
Ms.
number
Odine,
4?
on number 4,
Yes.
what are we adding to that, or is that the same amount that we have now?
What we're adding is the director of IT. We already have one, so we're not hiring anyone else. We're just gonna start funding him out of the LCAP. And then, number 8. And I don't even know if one's gonna be enough. Based on numbers right now, we may have to bump that up. Cause I think we had about, what, 200? About 200?
Finished crunching the numbers yesterday, we have 92 students.
Oh, 92? I thought it was 192. So, yeah, we may have to bump that to maybe, I would think 3 if you give them 30 each. Just that are choosing to stay on distance learning.
So for number 4, we already have the staff,
Yep.
it's just changing the funding
Yep,
source.
yeah, he's already
Yes.
here. We're not
We're
gonna
just-
add an additional.
We're just rolling them together.
Yeah, and I don't know why we hadn't done that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll just start funding him out of the LCAP.
And then the number 8, it's still tentative to of just one or whatever.
Well, at first when we wrote this, we thought we only were gonna need one, but once the numbers started coming in, so
But this is for how many years?
that would just probably, from what I know most districts, but I don't know, I haven't had a chance to talk to Dr. Guerrero about this, but I know most districts are just doing it one additional year. So it'd probably just be for 21, 22, and then after that, they need to come back to regular school, and or they can choose independent study, I guess, but I don't know, that's gonna be up to you guys if you want it to go for 2 years, 3 years, but that's really and ultimately whatever he presents to you guys. We haven't got that far into thinking, but like I said, I was shocked to hear 92. And then it's gonna, depend on what grade levels they all come in and how that's gonna all come into play.
Yeah, we've been pushing out a survey to find out for parents, because obviously everything dictates how much staff we need based on the numbers, and so we've been pushing out the survey that kind of requests, are you still interested, do you want to do it? So what our plan is that now that we have somewhat of a concrete number, 92, the survey will close this Friday, and then we're gonna reach out to those 92, the parents of those 92 students, and find out, and just have an interview to say, just, do you understand what this means? You know, because.
Do you understand what you're saying yes to?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we'll get the crunch numbers and then make the decision as far as how much staff we have, because it is a good cross-section. I mean, it includes all the grades, if I remember, so it goes from TK to 8. So one teacher to say that they're gonna be able to deal, no, it's not. So we're gonna have to figure out, massage it a little bit to find out exactly what's the best way to do it. And the plans are, at least to piggyback on what Ms. Ogeen was saying, that, yeah, most of us I'm referencing to districts are gonna offer it for 1 year, because the goal is to get everybody back. And so the state's kind of giving us a little bit more flexibility for 1 more year. We'll know more when the budget is passed, because this is a big topic that's being discussed now at the state level, is what is this gonna look like? And so once that stuff gets ironed out, we'll know more as far as how we're gonna implement our program. I didn't wanna get too far ahead and start building something, and then the state tells us that, no, you have to do it X, Y, and Z, and then revamp it. So I'm kind of a little hesitant, but we are getting the numbers, identifying those students, and then trying to figure out staffing purposes, and then building the program after that, once we get clarification from the state.
And there'll be different, probably rules and stuff we'll set. I know a lot of districts are doing that, whereas before they let them have the cameras off and this and that. If you're in distance learning, cameras on the entire time, you don't get the chance to have it off and be laying in bed and just listen to your teacher. So it would require a lot of more participation on the parents, on the students' part, and the parent will really have to monitor their child if that's a route they choose to take. But there's some people, they're just still scared, they don't want to send their kids to school.
And then things might change, and
Yeah.
they might all come back.
Yeah, and that's
The
we're
numbers
hope,
might-
I'm
yeah, the
thinking
numbers will drop
that
with the new school year coming.
maybe once the kids see that their friends are coming to school and they're doing different things, they're gonna say, hey, I wanna go back, and then we
Well, yeah,
start
because
getting
are
back.
they still gonna be included in sports? and
Exactly,
that? I mean,
because if you're being
just a month.
isolated, you're at distance learning because of isolation purposes, so I would think the answer would be no.
Exactly.
Because your parent wants you isolated, so that's just criteria we're gonna have to sit down and iron out and figure out what we wanna do.
Because there's gonna be a lot of stuff, field trips.
So what you're saying is you wanna roll with this idea and take responsibility and build it out?
Is that what I said?
That's what we heard.
It sounded like it.
We're trying to find the right person.
Well, I do sit on a board and I've read a lot of this and it's come to me already, that's how I know how it's happening at another
It sounds like
district.
you have the knowledge base to take this idea.
Yeah, so
and run
that's
with
how
it.
there are rules in place, yes, so, yeah, I'm sure I
exactly,
could
because
borrow.
Yeah, because I'm sure some of these kids are gonna see that they wanna be in PE, they wanna do field trips.
Yeah,
I mean, let's say some of
and
our-
the reason you would be in distance learning is for isolation purposes.
And so, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't have your
Yeah.
cake and your ice cream.
That's true, yeah, so that's what we have to figure out, we could bring something to you guys and
Because we want our kids in school.
I could share some ideas with you guys, or give them to
Yeah.
Dr. Guerrero, and he can bring them and share them with you guys, and I'll let him take the credit.
No. Sounds like you're volunteering to take on this.
I don't know, we'll see.
this
I'm
leadership
officially off
position.
work, so I don't know, we'll talk July 29th or something like that.
We'll get something going.
No, I'm teasing. So do you guys have any questions, any dialogue you wanna have now? I mean, this is public hearing, if you wanna talk about anything? No? Later?
I don't think they're
So,
pretty much fair.
we'll have it, it's still draft, but the actions are pretty much set. I do believe we're not gonna add any more actions. If we do, I'll email you guys individually, cause we have that 2-week window, so that you're not surprised the day of the meeting if we change anything or add anything. But I think, everything is pretty much there. We didn't add too many because the actions we pretty much had was a lot of intervention and we're just gonna take it a step deeper, and the teachers are gonna, well, with the ELO plan that she presented, that's where you're gonna see your math and reading labs and all that as well. And we're gonna start rolling some of that over into the after-school program.
Do you think a lot of teachers are gonna participate in the TDIA? Have we seen any
They
teachers?
were the ones asking for it during distance learning.
Okay.
Which surprised me, but it was, how do we monitor that, you know? So, yeah. I know that's something, I know Lamont School teachers are really good about that. And I don't know, I don't know what to expect. It's, I'm surprised, we had a lot of district teachers that applied for summer school as well this year. So that was really nice. And so hopefully we can get buy-in. All we can do is try, we put it out there. Because the minute we don't, it's like, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, right?
Yeah, and I think, didn't they say too, it's a record high on how many kids are attending summer school?
I know
A record like what?
It's up to 395.
Yeah, I mean, it's
395,
a record
yeah.
high.
And yesterday, I think Sandra added 20 more kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, the parents want them, the parents that are wanting their kids to come, they
Yeah.
want them to get into that rotation, or that flow. And yeah, they've been out of school for a long time already. Yeah.
and we're not turning anybody away,
Nope,
right?
no,
Not yet.
no, not yet. We may have to hire some extra.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
No
no, we
waiting
haven't,
list, no nothing,
we
just
haven't,
bring our
we
kids.
have, and sped classes are pretty good. We've been, every day the numbers go up, so yeah. So special ed
The
students.
lines, because they have to line up with 6 feet apart, their lines are like super close.
Well, I thought it was 3 feet now.
Yeah, but the kids, I think they're so.
They're
used
already,
to doing
because
the
they
6
once, they
feet.
already had a system in place, so we just went with it.
Yeah.
They kinda let us, so however they did it, we
Now,
followed.
are we still giving out lunches, the drive-by lunches? Cause I know today they went by and.
No, they have to get out, they have to get off the car and go in the cafeteria.
Oh, that's what it
Yes.
is now.
It's no longer grab and go. They have,
Like
it's
when-
universal feed, so they can get out, it's still up to 18 years old, and they go and get it,
Yeah.
yeah. So, But
I know
there is
that-
still that,
Yeah, I
there
know
is.
the high schools are doing only on Thursdays now.
Yeah, and Boys
Or
and
the whole
Girls
week.
Club, I wonder if they still are, because I know if you played your cards right, you could almost pick up 5 lunches a day out of everyone that was passing out here in Lamont, because Boys and Girls Club would do it there from 2 to 3, and then over there at the club from like 3 to 5, and then our school sites, and then the high school district. So, that's
Yeah,
it.
the high school's doing it once a week.
Yeah. Oh, and
Once a
so it must
week.
be a box.
Yeah.
That's how Violent was
Yeah.
doing it
They're
for a
doing it,
while.
they're doing it on Thursdays
So they were
in the
giving, like-
mornings, like
yeah.
for about an hour and a half,
okay.
and it's for the whole week.
Yep.
From the ages of 2 to 18,
Oh, okay.
all the high schools.
All right.
Board members that were absent, they can still ask questions. if you guys
Yes,
wanna help.
yeah, it's a 2-week window, so I'm available, I'm still here. So, yeah, they could reach out via email, you guys can call if you wanna, whatever, just call me, you guys have my number. And if you have questions, or call Dr. Guerrero, and he'll redirect you to me, or he may be able to answer your question. We all, Gary, Dina, Dr. Guerrero, myself, we met with stakeholders and we got input, so a lot, 99.9% of all this is just all stakeholder input. So you'll see that when the actual document's more wordy now, they're requiring us to add a lot more verbiage. The template changed, and so Dina had the ELO to write the learning continuity, so some areas may not be 100% complete, but they'll be ready by board approval. We have little notes in there, so you may just kind of ignore some of them on the job. Okay?
Okay,
No?
thank
All
you.
right, thank you guys.
Okay, moving
I
on
don't
to, item 7.2.
You have to make a motion to close the public hearing for the LCAP, right?
Yeah, motion to close public hearing.
To close public hearing
Oh,
for the.
wait, he still has.
Don't you have to close the LCAP and then open?
And then
the
open
budget,
another
right?
public
Okay,
hearing,
got it.
yes.
So what was the temp that we opened?
The motion to close the public hearing for the LCAP.
Okay,
I make a motion to close the public hearing for the LCAP at 7:07 PM.
7:08. Okay,
Is there a second?
is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by member Santana Garibaldo and a second by member Velasquez. All in favor?
So
Aye.
that's,
Thank you.
I had to open up a public hearing.
And now we move to, yeah,
Now we move to,
the budget, public hearing?
7.2, public hearing at 7:09.
So now you have a motion to open?
And do we have a motion to open?
I
Item
motion to
7.2.
open. I motion to open public hearing for, budget.
And I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion made by member Santana Garibaldo and a second by member Velasquez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
all right. Did we already opened it? It's open?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. All right, so this is the 21-22 public hearing for the budget. Next slide, please. The first slide we have here is our, we're working in 2 years here, so we're gonna be looking at 2021 and 21-22. And so 2021, these are our ADA levels, both estimated and funded. You'll see they're all the same. These are all based off of our 1920 P2. So we're held harmless through this period. And we really have no idea what we're projecting. As students come back in the beginning of this school year, we're gonna start seeing numbers of enrollment and where we're at. And then by December P1, we can see where our ADA is for the year. And then we can start to make adjustments as we'll see. Go to the next slide, please. And these are just, there's a small, maybe 4 or 5 kids that we have in county that are special education related. Those are added right there. Next slide, please. This is looking at that whole picture. So we have our 1920 ADA. That's our P2. We didn't actually do an annual, so it just is our annual. And then you'll see that we're just projecting that flat, being very conservative. I don't know which way we're gonna fall. Next slide, please. And this is what I was referencing as we're looking forward, and as we start this year, we need to keep track of our students that we have coming in, and then for sure by December P1, when we have our annual day, start to really begin our discussion about 22-23. School Services of California has this graphic. No matter what our 2021 and 21-22 ADA falls at, we're funded at that line. But once that hold harmless, we're going to go back to the old system of the prior year or current year, and we potentially have this cliff. Doesn't mean that we do. So as long as those numbers kind of hold, then we'll be solid. We're hoping for some type of growth and stability as we move forward. Okay, next slide. This is our UPP. I bring this up because in the 1920 year, we had that on the very bottom, you can see single year unduplicated pupil percentage. So that 1 year, we had this drastic drop from our historical average, kind of a fluke of an anomaly. Then next year, we started correcting that. You can see that each year, they take the 1 year number, and then what they do is they do a 3-year rolling average. So even though in 1920, we were down to 86, it brought our average, which is about 95, down to 92. And then even as we brought that back, that lower number for 2021 is still getting that 3-year average coming down. But you can see as we get to 22-23 forward, we should be back up to where we were historically with our applications and our status. Next slide, please. And so this is the revenue section of Form 01. You can see that on the left side where we're estimating our revenue for 2021 and what we're estimating for 21-22. On the 21-22 side, on the parent budget overview for parents, the first slide that you saw are those numbers in the right column. Okay, just go to the next slide, please. And this is just a detailed synopsis. That top line, LCFF sources, that's just our LCFF revenue that comes from the state, Prop 98 and the like. This right here is a breakdown of what the federal sources that make up those numbers. So on the 2021 side, you see a number of 14,473 and some change. That is what totals up to that number. And then if you can go to the next slide, please. You'll see the same for 21-22. And you can see that total number there. This is just a breakdown of each one. Next slide, please. This is for our state revenue for 2021, just a breakdown of that number that you see and the resources that they are. And next slide, please. This is 21-22, our state resources that we're expected to make up that number. And then the next slide is our local for last year, and then the next slide, please. Right there. And so those big numbers are on your main page, and that's just a breakdown of the details. And next slide, please. All right, we're looking at our general fund expenditures. We're looking at last year and current year, and we're looking at, for certificated salaries, a slight increase there of 5.3%. That also includes the things like the 4 intervention teachers, a part of our ELO plan, and those types of things. Also, too, in our classified, that includes our school social workers, that includes the LVNs and intervention types of positions that we are going to be hiring as part of our plans and learning loss mitigation. And then looking there, we have our benefit amounts, and then our books and supplies. Those numbers are very distorted. We have these ESSER funds. It's really kind of tough to track down on where we're going to end or where we're going to be. But that's just our detailed expenses. We're expected to have a total of 53 million, just under 53.8. Go to the next slide, please. And so we can look at our revenue versus expenditures. In the current year, we're looking to have a net increase of about 9.9 million, and then next year we're looking at just over 70,000 of an increase to the fund balance. The next slide, please. And then this right here is the fund balance reserves. This begins to break it down and add the addition. So we have our beginning balance that we started the year with, and where we're going to end for each respective year in 2021 and 21-22. You can see similar amounts there. Next slide, please. This right here is the breakdown of the commitments and the assignments and the 3% reserve. I have it on the next slide, so it's a little easier to see. Next slide, please. So looking at here, the left side, sorry I didn't put it at the top, the left side is 2021, the right side is 21-22. Looking at the ending fund balance, I did forget to put the revolving cash, so the number down below will be 10% lower on one of the assignments, but I'll make that simple adjustment. Looking here, restricted funds, those are things like restricted lottery reserve or any types of restricted funds that we can't spend, such as our low-performing student block grant or things like that that are restricted to very specific purposes. Then we have our commitments. For each year, we have our 2 months of operating expenses based on the current year's expenditures. And then we have our facilities and implementation and retirement plan. You can see that in 2021 to 21-22, there's a decline. That's as we're spending some of that money to do the pre-work ahead of time to package it up for DSA. I know Dr. Vera has shared that with you. We started spending some of that, but I still have some time to move that around. So I'm speaking with him to see if maybe we have some other funds that we can utilize first before that. So that'll be something that we review. But the main bulk of it, we're still going to have there committed to those facilities projects. And we'll also be making our final retirement payment in July, 3 of 3 for the retirement center we did 3 years ago. And then looking at the assignments they have, as shared with you previously in a presentation, the administration is suggesting we assign the following dollars as new cafeteria and MOT facility for 7.5. We have anticipated deferrals in facility needs at about 1.7. And then our lottery and EPA, those balances can only be spent in certain ways, but they all go towards instruction-related purposes. We're just calling them out there for what they are. And then looking at the reserve for economic uncertainty, for each year you have 3% of the expenditures based on their respective year. Okay, and then go to the next slide, please. And then we're just going to go over the MYP. This is just our multi-year projection. So you can see here that the 22-23 and the 23-24. So this is assuming we make it through the budget year that we're having a public hearing on and what our results are projecting to be. And so you can see here the 22-23 and 23-24, those are based off those UPP ADA numbers that were held harmless. So those are coming up because we have that raising UPP, and we also have this stagnant ADA though, so that's why we're monitoring for 22-23. There's a large reduction in the federal revenues, and I have that detailed on the next slide. And then the other revenues we are projecting just that. It's okay, Antonio, you can go to the next one right there. And those, that last slide had our totals that we're expecting for our revenues. This right here is looking at, this right here is looking at the total change in federal revenue, as well as what our funding source is. So you'll see on the prior slide that we went from 16 million down to 3 million, and you can see that change is just under $13 million, and those are the specific items that were called out that would be removed with the expectation that they're spent in this current 21-22 school year. And then right next to that, the remaining net results of just under 3.7 million, those are the items that make up those federal revenues. We have our Title Is, our migrants, our Title IIs, and things like that. And so those are the details. A lot of these bulk up numbers in the federal revenue were from our CARES Act, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, those types of things. And so that's what our revenue kind of picture looks like. Large reduction there, but it's because we have this large influx of ESSER 3 funds that's coming in the current year. Next slide, please. And then looking over the expenditures, we have step and column costs. We always estimate those at about 1.5%. We added in the certificated rates as they settled, double year. So we have that projection out in the 22-23 school year. Then we're looking at just the step and column amount as classified hasn't settled for the current year or the next years. Looking at the benefits, we're just doing conservative 3%. And then most of the things that were stripped out as far as all those ESSER funds, when I originally created, we haven't written our ESSER 3 plan yet. So most of those, all those funds actually, I just put on supply and service lines until we make a plan for how we're going to utilize those funds. So I stripped most of all of that out of those types of expenses, and then we're just projecting forward where we would be at. Then you can look at the next slide, please. This just kind of pops out some information for you. So it's maybe a little easier to understand or see where we're coming from. So this has our historical data. The 2021 year are estimated actuals, and then 21-22 are our budgeted, what we expect our budget to end at. And then what we're doing here is we're just trying to look at our past spending and try to get an idea of what we should project for the current years. Obviously you can see it's just greatly distorted with what we've experienced in the last year. So I'm just trying to be as conservative as I can. This is just our unrestricted funds. And if you go to the next slide, these are our restricted funds, same philosophy, same situation, where we're trying to look back at what we spent, factor in the information that we have, and really trying to make a projection. But it's throwing darts at a dartboard in the dark. We don't know where the ADA is. We don't know where the needs are going to be. We don't know what we're going to be facing. I think we're beginning to get an idea of that as students come back for summer school. And as you can see, just 400 kids, there's a hunger for it. There's a lot of hunger for a lot of the services that we're providing. Go to the next slide, please. This is just a summation of the total amount, and those will be the net percentages that you see on the slide. These are just what we're projecting the total amounts will be. I try to look at where we've been and project a place where we would probably land around that figure, give it a little bit of space. Okay, and that's the totals. Next slide, please. And then this is the fund balance. That current year on the first slide, I'm sorry, in the first section, you saw that we were projecting to have an addition of just over 70,000. In the next 2 years, those are our projections, just over 200,000 and 500,000 additions to fund balance. I finally figured out more about this form, and I was able to kind of estimate our commitments and our assignments and stuff in those out years, and so you can see those totals there, as well as the call out for the economic reserve. And on the final slide right there, you can see that we have those 3% amounts earmarked in that section. And then the next slide, please. And so you can see here just some information we have. These are the contributions we make: special education, ongoing major maintenance, standard factors that we do every year. Go to the next slide, please. These are the deferrals. So we experienced deferrals this year, February through June. This was something that other districts had to take a trans out for. We did not have to do that. And we did, though, participate in this where we didn't get 100% of our funding in those months. And so what will happen is those will be paid back to us in this 2021 school year to kind of replenish that pot that we had. And on the next slide, please. You can see those are the estimated totals from last year's second interim when we did our cash flow projection. I'm sorry, last year's first interim. We did our cash flow projection to review our status. These are the total amount of dollars that are being deferred. And I just wanted to bring up the deferral conversation, one, because we're being paid back for it, and two, just because the governor has shown a tendency to not only use it, but keep it around when there's no need to. So he had an influx in cash, and he's still holding on to those deferrals. So that's a very concerning thing for us moving forward. So it's just something that we want to monitor and keep track of our cash. And then I believe that is the last slide that I had for you today. Thank you. Is there any questions or anything else you would like to review?
I know there was a lot of information and a lot of numbers, but overall we're in good health financially.
And I didn't go too deep into those tables. I can if you would like me to, but it's just a summation of the total number, and I wanted you to have that information.
In my opinion, you were very clear, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal, thank you. Any questions?
No
Okay,
questions,
good
thank
deal, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we make a motion to close this, this public hearing regarding the district budget for the 2021-2022. Is there a motion to close?
I will make a motion to,
7:24,
where are we at, which one?
7.2.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
yes, so
Okay.
we're closing, right?
Yes. So we have a motion made by Member Velasquez and a second by Member Santana Garibaldo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Moving on to item 7.3, approve the teacher induction program agreement with Kern County Superintendent of Schools. Kern County Superintendent of Schools Agreement number 22-0199. Dr. Guerrero, what is the district recommendation?
The administration recommends that the board approves the teacher induction program agreement with KCSOS.
Board members, do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
No questions. I motion to approve 7.3.
Okay, we have a motion made by Member Santana Garibaldo. Do we have a second?
Yes, I will second that.
Okay, we have a second by Member Velasquez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item 7.4, approve the external accounting services agreement with Kern County Superintendent of Schools. Kern County Superintendent of Schools Agreement number 22-0130.
Administration recommends that we approve the external accounting service agreement with the KCSOS.
Board members, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns?
No questions.
Do we have any motion on the floor?
I will make a motion to approve 7.4, Mr. Vice President.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion made by Member Velasquez and a second by Member Santana Garibaldo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we need to go into closed
No,
session?
unless there's a topic we want, but I'm done.
Okay. Moving on to item 10. Let's skip 9, right? Do we have a
Motion to
motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Member Santana Garibaldo. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
We have a second by Member Velasquez. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We adjourn at 7:27 PM. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll see you on June the 22nd at